What's up, guys? It's your boy Justin. I'm reviewing the Greyknights Omnibus from. Well, the first book was written in 2004, the second book 2006, and the last book, Hammer of Daemons, 2008. This is the Greyknights Omnibus, which is a chapter in Space Marines chapter that's part of the under the direct control of the Inquisition, which is my new 40k faction that I'm building for the tabletop game. So these are a series of spin-off books published by Black Library, based off the tabletop war game Warhammer 40k. So yeah, what was originally lovingly referred to as fluff, but is now like the main driving force of the game. As I think so. I could be wrong, but yeah. I'll put the camera here. So yeah. So I tried reading this book over a decade ago, and I didn't like it. I only got 60 pages and dropped it. Only till like after I got to that point, past that point, first 100 pages, then it was like, okay, it actually got kind of good. But yeah, the book there's 3 books in this omnibus, right? Your typical Space Marines omnibus had 3 books. I don't know if this is in print anymore. I don't think it is, but if you can find it, you can find it, right? Some hobby stores sell used used Black Library books, which you're not supposed to. according to like this one shop I went to. But yeah, so the main character of the book is Justicar Alark, who does not have Terminator armor, even though you look up illustrations and he has Terminator armor. He's just supposed to have Space Marine armor. But the first book, which is called The Greyknights, is about Justicar Alark, who despite getting wounded during a fight where him and his Greyknights are supposed to arrest this radical Inquisitor. Because, like, if anybody knows anything about the 40k universe, you know, like, if you ever read a story with an Inquisitor, there's a 50-50 chance they're going to turn evil. Obviously not in their own series, but in like random stories that they're in, dude. I remember like one of the first, like the first couple stories I ever seen Inquisitor was in Space Marine, which he turned out to be a bad guy, and then like one short film, but like where he turned out to be a good guy, and then it was like one of the omnibuses. I'm not gonna say which. Yeah, it turns out he was a bad guy again. So it's like a 50-50 chance that Inquisitor is going to be a bad guy. But yeah, the first book, the main villain is a rogue Inquisitor who's trying to bring back this this demon called Garjuloth, which 10,000 years ago, or no, 1,000 years ago, which the book starts off with this story about how a chapter master Mandulus and his lightning power sword went down into this planet, covered in horrors and demons, or whatever. Had to like cut through like a legion of demons to get to this one demon, Garjuloth, who's a servant of the chaos god Tzinch, or She Who First, which it's a evil goddess in the Eldar lore. Which, thank God, I was playing Rogue Trader, because like there's a Eldar character in the last book who Alar kills and calls and the Eldar's like She Who First, and I'm like, they never explain what he means by that in that book. So it's like, what the hell? So in the first book, Justicar Alark gets promoted to brother captain despite the wishes of his chapter, by Inquisitor Legaia, who is a psyker who's kind of like an empath, who can like read like the psychic impressions on objects, right? And she's running an investigation to find out like how they're gonna bring back this god, this evil demon god or whatever, prince of demon god, Gargilov. So the first book is like an investigation book with random battles, only for like the Inquisitor, the evil Inquisitor character to escape, and there's like turns in Imperial world against the Greyknights, tells them they're like traitor legions, because the book came out around 5th edition or whatever, when like the like when they were putting out the Horus Heresy book, so that we had to remind people like, oh yeah, there are traitor legions. So they trick this entire Imperial world that the Greyknights are actually traitor legions, and they have to fight like guardsmen, they have to fight Sisters of Battle. Yeah, so that was cool. And there's obviously demons and stuff, but it's mostly investigation book where like the Inquisitors are kind of the main characters and Greyknights are the side characters. Like besides from Alaric, you don't really get much character development from the other Greyknights. That's one of my main complaints for this series. So the second book takes place on, which that book was pretty cool, because it's like, even though like it was like 100 years. Sorry, my coworker parked behind me. So despite the fact it only took place like 100, there's a beginning story where you have this Mechanicus tech priest, or admech as they're called, investigating heresy on a Mechanicus world, and it takes place 100 years later. The world disappears and re-emerges from the warp, and Alaric, was demoted back to being a Justicar, has to team up with Inquisitor Nyxos, who is this old man and fucking, what's it called, exoskeleton armor, exoskeleton suit, and his like lovely, attractive young female aide, Hawkspur, which is not implied that they're having sex, but like by the end of the book you think, oh, they probably are. So that book, that was great because it talks about the warp and how like time moves differently, because like apparently on the planet it's been 10,000 years, it's 10,000 years later for the planet, and they created like this cannibalistic, like cyborg, messed up this like society, dude. Like holy crap. Like you have like daemon infused like mechs, like servitors, like digital demons and all that shit. Very SMT. Where Alaric and a small group of Greyknights and Tech Guard have to investigate this planet. Where that was like super crazy. And that was super crazy because they get into like the lore with the 40k, you also had a thing where another thing they stole from Doom, besides from the God Emperor like aspect, is that they also stole, like, you know, that at some point humanity was at war with AI, and that's why you don't really have thinking machines anymore, despite the fact that you have the Leagues of Voltan have them. Like, they actually fight, like, the main villain of that book turns out to be a rogue AI. Not this emissary of the Omnissiah that the tech priests that found it thought it was, and turned like heretical and like became the Dark Mechanicus, right? Which that book was pretty cool because it had like which the entire 3 books take place during the 13th Black Crusade, where Abaddon is at and his fleet came out of the Eye of Terror, and is just at war with Cadia and like all the different like imperial worlds, right? That's why Justicar Alaric has like not a lot of Greyknight support. And there's some cool like Chaos Space Marine evil captain, which crashes. Didn't get what he was promised, this like giant titan that they could make millions of, only for like, hey, there's still like a fleet of like Titans on the planet you could take back to Abaddon, but he just crashes out and destroys everything in the climax. So the third book, I'm running out of time. So the third book is Hammer of Daemons, where Justicar Alark and a squad of Greyknights are supposed to help guardsmen defend a planet from chaos cultists, where there might be daemons, only for them to get overrun. And Justicar Alark decides to, even though they were just told, hey, just defend, right? Decides to get on a one-on-one with the Chaos Champion, which is a normal guy, what he thought was a normal guy, and power and armor and a sword. Justicar loses, gets captured, and he is imprisoned on Khorne, who's the god of the chaos god of war, basically. Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull from. And he's forced to fight as a gladiator for the lords of, Khorne's amusement, right? So that's where you get like a very Spartacus story. So I'm running out of time, so I gotta wrap this up. But like that story was pretty cool, because you have like Alark teaming up with like criminals, orcs, and an Eldar Scorpion. Which is he, an Eldar Scorpion? Which is like the green guys with the chain blades, the massive chain swords. So I really liked that book, because that book was like super dark and grimdark, and it had like this fantasy, like grim-dark fantasy world, because like there's not a lot of gunplay in that thing. And there's also this prophecy where they have to find the Hammer of Daemons to conquer the planet, which the Hammer of Daemons is also what Lord Inquisitor's Cotius weapon is called, which I have his model. I showed it off painted in my one haul video, which I forgot to upload part 2, where I actually show the books I got or whatever. Yeah. So I really enjoyed all 3 books. What my problem with there's minor problems here and there, like with some of the words chosen. But my one thing I really liked about the book is that the first book was completely grim dark. There was no humor, right? Then the second book, there was a little bit of humor with the Chaos Space Marines, and how like the Chaos Space Marine has this like deck full of enslaved like daemons, and there's this passive aggressive relationship with them. So that was funny, but the way it was played, you could take it straight, and it could have been, that was this dark humor. The third book, okay, they tried to be funny, so it's like, okay, I kind of wish you stayed with the tone, because even though some of the humor in these books, 40k books, I do like, it's kind of like, would have been like, they stuck with the tone. But overall, I enjoyed the books, these books. But if you're a Greyknights player, you might be kind of annoyed that, hey, the Greyknights aren't really they don't really get fleshed out. And besides Justicar Alark, the only people who really get fleshed out are the Inquisitor characters. Most of the characters kind of don't feel like 3-dimensional or whatever. But overall, I like these books. I would recommend them. 7 out of 10. Peace out.